to order at 1:46 p.m. Vincent. Hey, go Shraddha, that's Uganda. Oh, first item is roll call. Great evening, start.
Oh, 3 irons, Black Lodge. Rogers, Black Lodge.
Those who went.
Here. Burning ground, Ottawa, Khaba. Grove on, Launchcraft. Alderman Bigger. Water goes, big order.
Raise your hand, the noodle on.
That was 0. Good luck. East to go, here.
Stewart, he goes to God, but here.
Wilbert Muddyfield.
Old Josh, but just for the record, CJ, go ahead, CJ.
Stewart, Black Lodge, here.
Oh, 15 present. No. Oh, executive staff, legislators, it's the last day of the January session. We'll wrap up with accepting the journals and the executive official reports and a couple of LRs. Now again, I'm going to have a request a motion to move the journals to the next item on the agenda because we have moved it to the end of the agenda. So I'm requesting for a motion to move it to the next item. Motion by Eric. Need a second? Second by Charles. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carries 15-0-0. And also, I should have made that with addition. On the journals, we did not approve the July quarterly session journal, which, however, it is in the packet. The reason we didn't pass it in October was we adjourned. We did not have a quorum on the last day. We didn't. We're not able to approve that July journal. So at this time, it is part of the journal packets. So I make that motion to add the July quarterly session in the journals. Second by Duke. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carries 15-0-0. So the July quarterly session journal is added to the packet of the journals, which are the July quarterly session journal, July 26th, 2013 special session, August 13th, 2013 special session, September 30th, 2013 special session, October 13th, October 2013 quarterly session, October 3rd, 2013 special session, October 24th, 2013 special session, November 12th, 2013 special session. I need a motion to approve the journals. Motion by Conrad Stewart, second by Bryce Hucks. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? Motion carries 15-0-0. Next item on the agenda is going to be the legislative resolution. So now at this time, are there any legislative resolutions to be presented?
I want to make a request that we move this to the end because I'm going to actually ask for executive session on this. It's pertaining to some personal matter and involving an issue that an individual juvenile was of a death. So I think if you may.
Okay. Where is legal counsel Jay? Jay, do you have the LR in regards to the leave? Okay. This LR is in regards to the administrative leave that we did approve at one time. I cannot recall right offhand the legislative resolution that authorized the speaker to give the employees 3 days administrative leave after each session. It got to a point where their annual leave was becoming very excessive, and that was due to the fact that they were not able to use their annual leave. They were just using the administrative leave. So we are at this time going to, with body approval, rescind that policy, and the policy will be at the speaker's discretion in regards to like weather or different situations that may occur through the year. And as soon as Jay gets it done, we'll get the process started in that regards. This was, we already, Carlson goes ahead, who was speaker at the time, myself and a few others had a discussion with it, and we met with the staff during one of the staff meetings, and they were in agreement to it. So that is why we went ahead with the process. In the meantime, Mr. Parliamentarian, could I move on into getting body approval in regard to some purchases? Or we're waiting for the print copies of the LRs. At this time, I am going to make a verbal request, and I will be submitting it to the body later with documentation. We are, as I stated last week, we are in need of copiers and updated computers for the staff. Staff computers, I don't quite recall, but I know it was discussed at one time with the body when Carlson Duke was the speaker at the time. These computers, I believe they're like 5 or 6 years old now. And they're having problems with the computer I had in the secretary's office has already crashed. And there are several others that are not barely working, and they're overloaded. We need to update on computers, and the purchase price for 6 computers would be $9,585. And then the copiers would be a tandem copier machine, and it would be 21,000. The original purchase price was $24,360. However, with the secretary's negotiations, he was able to get $3,000 for the current printer, and reduced the price to $23.60. So at this time, I am requesting body approval for these purchases.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion by Carlson goes ahead, second by Eric Bergenground. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? Motion carries 15-0-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Jay, are they almost done? Okay, I believe Leslie's finished handing them up. Here you go. Floor recognizes Jay Harris to read it into record.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, and members of the body, invited guests, Honorable Vice Secretary, and Tribal Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I have a proposed legislative resolution here as previously described. It's January 2014 Crow Tribal Legislature, introduced by the Crow Tribal Legislature, an LR titled A Resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature to Repeal LR 08-12.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Carlson goes ahead, second by Bryce Huggs. Proceed.
Legislative findings, whereas the Crow Tribal Legislature, hereinafter legislature or legislative branch, has the power and duty under Article 5, Section 2A of the Crow Tribal Constitution to promulgate and adopt resolutions in accordance with the Crow Tribal Constitution and federal laws for the governance of the Crow Tribe. And whereas in a special legislative session held on June 8, 2008, the legislature adopted legislative resolution number 08-12 titled Retro Compensation for 2008 Quarterly Special Sessions and Establishing Administrative Leave with Pay per Employee after Quarterly/Special Sessions, which created branch policy allowing each staff member to earn 3 days of administrative leave for each quarterly session and 1 day of administrative leave for each special session. And whereas Chapter 9.6 of the Legislative Branch Personnel Practices and Policy Manual, Administrative Leave, provides that the House Speaker, for purposes such as inclement weather and holiday extensions, may grant administrative leave with pay, and that administrative leave does not require use of annual or sick leave. And whereas there are not clear records of accumulated administrative leave earned, and each member of the legislative branch staff earns annual leave based on actual work hours each pay period. And whereas the legislature now seeks to simplify and improve branch policy so as to provide that administrative leave shall be exclusively employer granted as determined by the House Speaker in accordance with the Personnel Practices and Policy Manual. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature in regular session. Section 1. Legislative Resolution number 08-12 is hereby repealed and rescinded in its entirety. Section 2. All accumulated administrative leave earned by members of the legislative branch staff in accordance with Legislative Resolution number 08-12 is hereby eliminated and made void. Section 3. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon being duly adopted by the legislature. Mr. Speaker, that concludes the proposed legislative resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Moving on to the 30-minute presentation. As I stated earlier, the reason this came about was because due to the fact that we had to do some payouts in regards to annual leave, because there were in excess of 160 hours that cannot be carried over after each calendar year. So therefore, at that time, we determined that it was appropriate for us to take this action to alleviate that situation. So, before we go forward, so, is there any other proponents or
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and Executive Branch Chairman, Vice Secretary. Go to Giraga na LR 08-12, this in what will repeal what was also effective for the branch. So, you could gate one.
Oh. We'll this time close the 30-minute presentation unless there are any more proponents. Going once, going twice. Moving on to the next. We did not have a designated committee or action in that regards. It was more of a action that we took upon ourselves as the leadership when I was Secretary of the House and Carlson was the Speaker, being the persons in charge of the staff in their administrative duties. So that's why it was more of a Speaker Secretary action at the time. So anyway, I recommend myself and I'm sure Carlson that because we both talked about it, we thought we should bring it up, and I'll give the floor over to Pat Alden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and guests. In this process, I believe to bypass the committee, I know it's a personnel committee. We in the past went with the 2/3. Well, it's stated in the LR we have a 2/3 majority on that section. So.
Thank you, and I guess that was done through the process of adopting the LR, so it was 1500, so it was beyond 2/3.
Just ask for Legal J's opinion on this, just so we can clarify this section.
Jay?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Alden is referencing LR 1020, which provides that any legislative resolutions may be brought to the floor that weren't previously introduced in the 15-day notice in advance of the session, with a 2/3 vote, you can amend the agenda to bring on an LR. It sounds like that may have already happened.
That's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
the 15-0 vote, if the motion was to bring on an LR that wasn't previously on the agenda, then that would meet the requirement of LR 1020, so it would be duly noted that it's already been properly before the body by an amendment to the agenda.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the floor for debate. Floor recognizes Carlson goes ahead.
Mr. Speaker, at this time, I motion to waive debate, second reading, and go to final roll call.
Motion by Carlson goes ahead to waive amendments, second reading, and move to final roll call vote, second by Pat Alden. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carries 15-0-0. Greg, you may proceed with your vote.
Three ayes, likewise, yes.
Rogers, Blackout, yes.
Stewart, Blackout, yes.
You, Manuel Cobell, yes.
Burton Brown, Sunderland, yes.
Grove on, Hodgegard, yes.
Alden Bigor, yes.
Hildebrand, Bidlon, yes. Spotted Horse, Big One, yes.
Goes ahead, Alou de la Ho, yes.
Hug, Zero Creek, yes.
Good luck, used to go Club, yes.
Stewart, mighty few, yes.
Real Bird, mighty few, yes.
Old Crew, yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Motion carries 15-0-0.
Question?
Proceed, Mr. Stewart.
I thought we had some more work on this real quick, but apparently this is the one that's the finished version. So I made copies. Yeah. So I'm ready to
Okay.
proceed.
Okay, the next LR, floor recognizes Conrad Stewart.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, executive officials, and guests, I guess. This is a resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature to call upon the executive branch to implement CLB 12-01, which seeks to address the problem of loose livestock on the Crow Reservation.
Motion to adopt. By Gerald Stewart, second by Bryce Hugs. Proceed.
Whereas the Crow Tribal Legislature hereinafter legislature or legislative branch has the power and duty under Article 5, Section 2A of the Crow Tribal Constitution to promulgate and adopt resolutions in accordance with the Crow Tribal Constitution and federal laws for the governance of the Crow Tribe. And whereas Article 4, Section 4A of the Crow Tribal Constitution provides that the general duties of the executive branch officials include the duty to implement all laws, resolutions, codes, and policies duly adopted by the legislative branch. And whereas during the April 2012 quarterly session, the legislature by a 14-0 vote adopted CLB 12-02 titled An Act to Provide for the Protection of Stray Animals and the General Public on the Crow Indian Reservation, and which is also known as the Loose Livestock Bill. Whereas CLB 12-01 was signed by the tribal chairman on May 10, 2012, and took effect as Crow Tribal Law the same day, and whereas Section 2 of the CLB 12-01 amended the Crow Criminal Code as contained in Title 8B of the Law and Order Code in order to criminalize the actions of any person that abandons or places livestock on public roadways or in any other location where it may suffer injury, hunger, or exposure, or which creates a public safety hazard. And whereas Section 3 of the CLB 12-01 established tribal policy of considering any loose livestock located on the Crow Reservation as a public nuisance, and authorized the executive branch by executive order to implement CLB 12-01 through the establishment of a loose livestock abatement regulatory program and a loose livestock abatement incentive program, and to enter into written agreements for the purpose of facilitating the implementation and enforcement of the abatement programs. And whereas it has come to the attention of the legislature that CLB 12-01 remains largely unimplemented and unenforced, especially the Section 3 provisions authorizing the executive branch to establish loose livestock abatement programs, and whereas lives and property continue to be lost and at immediate and serious risk due to the ongoing problem of loose and stray livestock on the Crow Reservation. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature in regular session that the Crow Tribal Executive Branch of the government is hereby called upon and requested to take all such immediate and necessary actions to ensure that dutiful implementation and enforcement of CLB 12-01 and to provide a report on any such efforts within 30 days of the effective date of this resolution. Such report shall be to the appropriate committee of the legislature. Be it further resolved that the executive branch is also called upon and requested to take all such immediate and necessary actions to cancel and void any leases of Crow tribal lands which are held by persons who are found to be in violation of CLB 12-01. Be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be immediately provided to the executive branch officials, the Crow Tribal Department of Public Safety, Crow Tribal Land Resources Department, and the Crow Tribal Prosecutor Attorney General. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. You have 30 minutes to present your LR here.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and guests, and members of the executive branch. As we all know, there's a situation that was pretty troublesome to a lot of us here on the reservation. It happened in the prior district, and a white man continually disregarding rules of keeping his livestock contained, and continually disregarding, people getting after him, keeping it, his bulls and stuff, getting out on the road. During, I believe that time when it was in October, Duke was out it was in October when we were in Coeur d'Alene, right?
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene.
We got a text message that there was an accident on the road. And at that time, my niece, she ultimately, ended up passing on, moving forward, and she was actually a member of my daughter's team, traveling team, and she was a good person, just like a lot of people are, and something like this could have been prevented. And yet, continually hearing about this gentleman that has these livestock and still showing no regard for safety and the life of the Crow people. And some crows ran into his cattle again. This time, we were lucky enough that they didn't pass away, but the car was damaged. And this gentleman showing no regard for loss of life and the pain that we felt that time. And before it happens again, I know that this new administration came on board, and there's a lot of different things that need to be implemented in the law. And taking that into consideration, I'm asking that from them, that we start establishing these talks. Anybody held in violation of this loose livestock bill that's already passed as law does not need to do business on the Crow Reservation if they're going to show no regard to the Crow people. If they lease land to keep their cattle there, then why is their cattle on the road? Did they lease that road? I don't think so. And right now, I'm going to be looking for exclusion clauses in the amendment of the land lease ordinance when we bring it to the floor here pretty quick here in the next week. I've already talked with ex-Senator Woodrow Plainfeather. We're kind of log jammed with some of the land stuff, but we're going to get through it pretty quick here. And with your help, I don't want it to happen in any one of your districts, let alone my district or let alone anybody. I don't want it to happen. That young girl, she had her whole life ahead of her. And now, her life was taken because of negligence. And this guy still gets to make a living. And still, he acts no good amongst the community in the prior area. Right now, gentlemen, I'm asking for this, but ultimately, I was looking at exclusion in this resolution. But there's no basis of law just yet what we can look to. That's why we need to make that amendment at a later date with the land lease. They can do business someplace else. I always say this, and some people kind of laugh, but it's true. We got 2.2 million acres. White man got everything on this earth. And they even put a flag on the moon, and they claimed it. They come here, they have to abide by our laws. If they go do business in Wyoming, they have to abide by those laws. If they go someplace else, they have to abide by those laws. So it is here. We're no different. We're a sovereign nation. And if they want to do business here, then I think they better abide by the laws. And that goes for everybody. You know, there's a lot of death because of this. We had a study done, those two maps over there, and there's probably about a dozen added to that, those wrecks. All those sites that you see on those two maps on there are deaths. And so there's probably about a dozen from that time till now, close to a dozen that aren't on there yet. And so this is why I'm bringing this to the floor, is that I think we don't want to have another family lose a daughter. We don't want another mother to lose a daughter or a son or a family member. And I'm tired of these funerals that could have been prevented. It's negligence. You do that off the reservation, they're going to get you for negligent homicide. They try to think they can get away with it here. They put you here to make a law to protect them. Today, this is going to be a law that's going to protect them. We're asking the executive branch to implement this loose livestock bill abatement program. We already passed it as a law. And before we go any further, let's get this done. We need to get moving on this. And this is basically, we're kind of putting a shell in the chamber right now. And we're getting ready. So with that, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the committee, guests, and members of the executive branch, I look for your approval on this legislative resolution. It's very important that we get this passed, get this started, and we move forward. I hope.
Thank you, Conrad. Go to get game on the shop. The charge, no, when they go to school, okay, but I'll get out. Oh, stars, you choke. It's a rush, you'll get cheap, but it's go to. Should be a race, my G. I get a to easy to do something another one. I could have the charge, you know, shade, good deal. Are there any more proponents of this legislation? Floor recognizes Carlson, goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body. Yes. Na bakpoloshe korige age big besheje sawa chuk kali bog na wodum kugna yage CJG jawat kod malguga ule da balu is nere gel chuga den na ega malo khyorap shus go get Grady Hunsiero is spabit and me shake is wodum besheje the irritate Zira is ook de schok. Ik een radiator geef. Ik go Red Angus dat ik zeg dat hem ik current hospital going. En Easter galulaat in het dik. Ik heb go bezig daar. Ik kon daar het Zira is ook de schok. Voor Grady is spabit de you kon ook En merke, eu de gegen master zie nabil bakpolas dash die ook kon herge wairat dash iri wale te ook maar ik shit gestart bij iri wale te hakken ik wil raas doen bakpolas spastiro goa dash die kutten Odem kon isbulu bio oké dat maar moest je ik chance is te master
Over you.
They keep those those in get koi is bulupia or them. Anyways, you the master hated that. So anyways, get na the cut bakulu eyes was solid they go them kun price up my sugar was solid that. I do to the anyways, you can check for it, beginner. Again, I'm a proponent. Gateway.
Oh, any more proponents? Going once, going twice. Okay, this issue was brought up by Pat earlier, and I stand corrected. We did forget that step of motioning and adopting. Waiving that 15-day rule in regards to an LR. The parliamentarian reminded me earlier that we did accept it by that 15-0-0 vote on the previous LR. At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion for the waiving the 15-day rule on this LR, and then we'll proceed from there. And for motions, recognize Conrad Sword.
I move on that motion, Speaker.
Motion by Conrad, second by Bryce. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstain? 13-02. Okay, that allows for the 2/3 vote, so motion carries. And at this time, there was no committee action on it, but however, the sponsor introduced it because he wanted it approved, so I will, and him being the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, this being the Natural Resource and Public Safety issue, I will consider that a motion for approval in regards to the chair of the committee. No, proceed now to debate. Will recognize Tyson Groba.
I just got one question. We should give a copy to BIA law enforcement because Title 8 domestic animals is under that, and that's what they enforce over there. These roads are these domestic animals on the roadway. Pretty much they're the first ones to respond. So I think one of these, a copy should be given to one of them also. Thank you.
Paul. Spotted horse.
Speaker, Secretary, and visitors, senators. Again, ne bir kadar ali bakış ne var ya. Aksalı gel, you hold on to gana where Lisa says should be because you know just like over here. Again, then we talk about talk go on Mozart. We go and do what we're supposed to do. Hit the spotlight or stick. Do get to this book. I mean, it's just one history dog. You know, it's not actually our fault, but they do get on there. And some of them did get run over. There's okay, yeah.
Okay, I'll give my opinion and I'll ask for Jay's opinion. My opinion is, this is a statement telling the executive, we passed the law, now you guys need to enforce that law. And, you know, in regards to canceling leases, it depends on, I don't remember right offhand what it said in regards to canceling leases because of that. But this is like a recommendation. It's like a statement. And LR is a legislative resolution. Either it's an in-house ruling or a statement to the executive, judicial, or someone on the outside saying this is what the legislative body would like to see happen. So, floor recognizes Conrad.
Yeah, Paul, I understand you have a concern, but right now, this just, under that loose livestock bill, they've never implemented the abatement program yet. And that abatement program has regulation. So the executive branch, at the time when we passed this, we gave them our blessing to establish that abatement program, the abatement incentive program. So the ones that take care, that are good stewards with their land and their livestock, then there's incentives for that, however they go about it. But in this situation here, we're kind of running into excuses that the BI is trying to make, especially when the family in Bighorn tried to make that concern and that complaint. That BI is trying to say that we let go of good law, that because we let go of dam resolutions, that we don't have nothing to stand on. But you have this loose livestock bill that speaks directly to those situations. And Jay Harris hand-delivered to the, what was his name? Chief of police anyway. That, Uja, he's a Mexican. And that Figaro, yeah. They gave it to him, and so now he knows there's a law. And regardless of, like what Tyson brought up, they can't pick and choose the law that they're going to abide by. There's law in the books right now. If they want to go by this one and say this is one we're going to stand on, that's a bunch of BS because we pass law here and they have to implement it. Now, what I'm saying is that because there's a lot of things that are going on in this year that things can get overlooked, but right now, people are dying in the meantime. And we need to make sure that the executive branch implements this abatement program before someone else dies and cries. And so we need to move forward on that. Right now, it's not going to be something right now where we're going to get rid of people's leases. But once we start moving forward, then these non-members that have tribal leases and they show no regard for their cattle, because they think that they think you don't have no jurisdiction over me because I'm a white guy. They think that, but when they sign on to that lease should say that they have to abide by tribal law in our tribal court, and if it doesn't, then shame on us. you see. So that's why we're looking at the amendments to the land lease ordinance, and we're gonna review these areas. And these ones that show no regard and things happen, they're gonna be held accountable. Right now, there's no recourse for that family, and no one's looking out for them. And people are sitting back, just listening to everyone else say we can't do nothing, and everyone has their hands in the air. But there is law in the books that says you can do something about it. And all I'm saying right now is that under this, be it further resolved that we ask that the executive branch under CLB 12-01 that they implement the implementation and enforcement of the abatement program and incentives program. So then that way, 30 days upon this, then they make the report to the committee if they did it or not. But within that time anyway, we're going to be having committee meetings concerning the acquisition program and the fee to trust program and the amendments to the land lease ordinance, because I wanted to put exclusion in here and name names. But under basis of federal law, we don't have something under exclusion to refer to, because our land lease ordinance doesn't necessarily refer to exclusion to kick off a non-member. So once we make them adjustments in our law, then we do this, then we have a basis of law, and if they take us to federal court, we have that ground to stand on and kick them off our reservation. They don't have to be here.
Full recognize Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, and guests. I want to thank Senator Stewart for implementing this. I'm a proponent of this. Law follow things, guys. Chill, Bagaria, guys. Excuses, what we do here is we make law. Look out. My clues, guys, because already a law. Kalachi, what do you want to do? So, I am a proponent of this.
Hello, Eric. Any more? Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll move on. Any amendments to this? I believe Tyson wanted to add, to include BI law enforcement and distribution of copies. Jay, would that be considered an amendment, or do we just add that as? Okay, I need a motion by Tyson to add BIA on the distribution list, second by Eric Burtongraf. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All abstain? 15-0-0. Any more amendments? Okay, I'll move on to second reading, or if someone wants to make a motion to waive second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I motion to move second reading with amendments and go to final roll call vote.
Motion made by Crossen Gozad, second by Conrad Stewart. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carries 15-0-0. Moving to final roll call vote. We'll proceed. Great.
James, Black Lodge, yes. Rogers, Black Lodge, yes.
Stewart, Black Lodge, yes.
Keo, Maruhoba, yes.
Burden Ground, Madawaska, yes.
Grove on Lobster's, yes.
Alderman Big yes.
Figueroa, Big one, yes.
Spotted Horse, big one, yes.
Jose, yes.
Hugs, Arrow Creek, yes.
Stewart, Joe, Puggle, yes. Real Bird, Matthew, yes.
Old Karashbridge, yes. Motion carries 15-0-0. Got a comment to make, CJ?
Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, Mr. Secretary, and guests. I appreciate all the support. I'm looking for, we're going to be moving forward we're going to be tackling a lot of things. Right now, we've been tackling the renewals of these pipelines, and we're going to be continuing to tackle those. We do have these these bills that are sitting in committee now. I already talked with Senator Woodrow Plainfeather, and we're going to be coming together at the land office and start getting things taken care of. We do have somewhat of a logjam in those two committees of mine, and I'm expecting some serious involvement. It's gonna call. I need to call for more than just one day or two, and I really appreciate if we can get some involvement from the executive branch as well, because it's kind of hard when we have someone here that turns around and says, gets up and says, wait, we'll find out. The next meeting come around, and they said yes. Doesn't make sense. We need decision makers here on both sides of the table on some of these things, because right now with that fee to trust, with this land buyback, this COBAL, we need to establish our law for a safety net to catch what law is coming down the pike now. This acquisition program, we need to establish that to move forward. We have the amendments to the land lease ordinance, and that's something that we need to really take care of. There's a lot of issues in that. We're kind of weeding the bugs out because now we've got an administration that's implementing the law in that area, and there's fine tuning that needs to be made. So with that, thank you for this, and we're going to be moving forward. Like I said, I want to establish basis of law for exclusion upon non-members that do not implement any of this law, and so that way we have jurisdiction over them. So with that,
Thank you, CJ. Okay, moving on, we're completed with LRs. Now we'll move on to the executive report. Who wants to go first? Before recognizes Secretary Notfree.
Thank you, Speaker, Secretary, legislative body, guests. First of all, I'd like to start off with a timeline from October 2013. First week of October, the CCRO staff, which is the co-regulatory office, is a brother branch to the AML office. A little background for the new electees. The co-regulatory program, if you're not aware of it, is a program that regulates the mining, our coal mine up there. Basically what they do is review the permit and check the reclamation, make sure that the reclamation is to the spec of the reclamation plan. That way they can avoid erosion and poor management of the soils. Other than that, if the soils are not handled properly, you won't be able to grow anything on it. That's one major concern. So the tribe is taking it upon themselves to regulate this avenue of mining, because in the end, who inherits the land? The Crow tribe. Crow Tribe gets its own land back, would you rather the state monitor it for you or Office of Surface Mining? Office of Surface Mining will do the bare minimum, and yet you as Crows, you want the best grazing land, you want the best pasture land. If there's gonna be farm ground reestablished back on it, you know, you'd want that. You would want our Crow members to regulate that, to make sure it's being done by the plan. So what we did with the chairman upon, with a contract, hired Heather Whiteman to do some of the legal work with the U.S. solicitor, and that kind of streamlined some things where this is a long and drawn out process only because, like you all know, laws need to be put in place to govern development. Laws need to be in place to even govern the office that's going to assume these responsibilities. So yet they call that primacy. It's like 638 when we take over the road program, we take over a federal program, the entity that we're assuming those responsibilities, once they want to know what are your internal guidelines, how do you manage, how do you do this, how do you do that. So ultimately, it's under review, and at the same time, it's kind of like a work in progress where they're granting this program money and allowing them to demonstrate what they can do, and at the same time be within the parameters of the SMACRA and the Crow SMACRA. And the SMACRA was adopted by this branch. I believe that was in 10, right, Senator Stewart? So in 10, that Crow SMACRA was adopted, and that's what gave the power to currently Marvin Stewart as the CCRO director to observe and make sure and regulate post-mining, and as well as current mining. Heather's responsibility was to work on the administrative processes with the solicitor. There was over 300 deficiencies in our appendices in our code upon an informal submission to OSM. We informally submitted it only because we wanted to hear their side, and we also wanted their technical expertise in molding this. Because once the Interior passes it, we were hoping that his staff would be on board by them assisting us in massaging this regulation that we're creating. And at the same time, it's kind of with all the players at hand, there's a lot of money being put into this. At the same time, it's basically the money derived from the mine going back to the Crow, going back to the Crow office to regulate. So in a nutshell, the solicitor and Heather and our consultant, as well as our Crow legal office and the chairman and myself, are working toward trying to finalize this primacy project, because as we talk about Cloud Peak, this office eventually will have the authority to permit a mine. This office would have not only the authority, but the expertise, whether it's contract or our own Crow members administering. So that's the bright side, and that's the incentive of bringing back some of our Crows that work elsewhere, say whether it's BLM or BIA or what have you, to recruit those resources back to be our professionals within the tribe. October, from the 1st to the 21st, at that time we had the furloughs, as you're all aware. October 12th, we had the primary elections for legislative and judicial. October 25th, we had a land management meeting, and again, that was the concerns there were the land acquisition, the Cobell land buyback program, and lease ordinance. November 2nd, we had the general elections. November 13th to the 14th. Between these times, I myself, and as well as the vice secretary, would work on election material or even down to program staffing that the chairman had appointed us to oversee. So a lot of times we wouldn't get too deep into the personnel issues, but we would have some particular issues that would come across our desk that needed some executive oversight during these gaps of the time frame. November 13th to the 14th, again, the Crow Primacy Program met in Casper. Again, the response on that was just lining out the deficiencies. A good example was the, in SMACRA, the CFR, or the federal guideline, that says when a criminal activity is done, they can be charged up to $2,500. The heartburn that they had over this on our submission was not to exceed $1,000. And the purpose of that was the Constitution says that no crow will be penalized more than $1,000. So what that's saying is, in legal terms, in order for our law to be more stringent, $1,000 is less stringent than the CFR. So we're still trying to work that out. They recommended a constitutional change so we could be at 2,500, and we told them that's like pulling teeth at the moment. So we went ahead and went beyond that because we felt that it's our sovereign right to set that standard. And again, Bill Watt was instrumental on that, backing up the crows, and I have to thank him for that. It would be the first time. November 20th to the 21st, I attended the Economic Sovereignty through Energy Development. The chairman was not available, so he asked if I could step in on that. And basically, myself and a few other legislators, I believe the Speaker, Senator goes ahead, Senator Stewart, wasn't sure. Pat, did you go? There was just a guy that looked like him over there. But yeah, there was Chief Gordon. I remember. During this time, all they did was it was more of a networking. They had the industry there. At the same time, they showcased how they did some refinery initiation. At the same time, they were looking for investors, looking for natives to use their networking too. So if like we wanted a refinery, they kind of had the opportunity to point us in the right direction. During that exact time, we had we met with the MHA tribal leaders there, and at that time it was more of a reach out of, or a request of, can you meet a demand with your timber? November 25th to the 26th, that was the Taro Expo in Bismarck. We attended that to sit down with John Navarro and go through some Taro issues. At the same time, understand how the MHA does correspondence with its contractors. And I feel that being that we're having more and more crow contractors, it would be necessary if we did something like that. Because at this time, if you're a crow contractor and you feel you have no representation and you pay all these Taro fees, you know, where does that put you as a crow contractor? I'm not saying we're gonna bottle feed crow contractors. The thing is have this good relationship with your crow contractors, because those crow contractors feed crow families and they contribute back to the crow people with jobs. December 13th, Natural Resource Economic Development, Hilton Garden Inn, nation to nation collaboration between Crow Tribe, Mandan, and Arikara. That's when they met with us up in Billings. Our forestry director, Ammon Pretty Paint, provided a PowerPoint presentation as well as kind of a matrix of the cost of what it would take to meet their demand. And I believe Sherry might have already handed that out to you folks. And the starting goal was 160 homes. 160 homes consist of 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and then there was 40 log homes, and then later on 60 log homes. They were talking about 6 districts, 4-bedroom homes, possibly geothermal. Then we also talked about the fabrication plants. The chairman advised that, why don't we do that? And that's a good idea the chairman has as to why not having our own fabrication shop here, utilizing what we have here, plus we own the resource. December 17th, Newtown again. At this time, this is when we went and presented the results back to the Hidatsa Mandan Arikara Nation as to meeting that demand. There was a calculation of board feet that the forestry has done and said, yes, we can meet that demand. Meanwhile, other options were getting thrown in on the table, and before we can proceed, we recommended, hey, let's sit at the table, because before you know it, what happened here between that short time frame from the first request was, can you do this, can you do that? And then it would change midstream. Well, we don't want those, we want this. So what we wanted to do is basically sit down and put all the factors together, and as brothers, you know, help each other out. There was a little bit of confusion on their end as to, well, who's going to fork the bill, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. So we as the Crow Nation kind of took a step back, because internally over there, their office works different than ours. Here you got executive controlling the funds. Over there, each district controls funds. Each district has the right to use their funds how they want to, but yet it has to pass through council. So an example is Arrow Creek District has $200,000, and that $200,000 they want to, you know, build a barn. Well, they have that right to do it, but prior to doing it, it would have to come before this floor for vote. And so that's kind of the wake-up call on our end, when I thought, in good faith as Crow, we were talking to a tribal leader one-on-one, but come to find out that all decisions are made, you know, in quorum, yes. So even though one person brings up something, it's still not in stone. It still has to go before the floor. We submit the proposal. They like the proposal. We said somewhere around the lines of about $6 million. They said, would you be willing to take that in 2 installments? And the forestry director, along with Butch Herrera, says we could do that as long as the equipment is on hand. So yet the equipment is the larger cost here, but they have, that particular district has monies allocated to work with us, and again, we're just kind of waiting on them to follow through with an MOU to us as to the workflow and as to how we present. Because some other districts don't want these homes, they just want logs. They don't want us to build log homes, they just want logs. They want to build the log homes on their own. And then there's also potential for fence posts with slash piles up in the priors that would either just go to fire or timber beetles. So in closing on that, we just decided to have the attorneys work together first to create a MOU or letter of intent. That way no tribe is saying, hey, you said this, or hey, you said that, and then we're all back at square one again. December 19th, again, we met with legal for the land buyback program. The chairman and Melissa Shane, they submitted a budget to Interior for our program to administer, and I believe that one was approximately $2 million to administer that with 13 or 14 personnel. And we're still waiting on feedback from John McClanahan as to if he agrees on that. December 30th, We also met with legal finance and CPAs at the sub-office. Attorneys gave updates. Also, we're drafting credit card policies, IT and procurement policies, contracts and grants policies, and then personnel policies and procedures. Because we're coming into this issue of contradiction of whether it's the Constitution or whether it's just federal programs guidelines on expenditures. I'll go over Mr. Watt's report real quick. He talked a little bit about the legislature finalizing and submitting executive branch proposed legislation, covered legislature proceedings and committee meetings as necessary, comments, recommendation on interbranch litigation and appeal, elections, special legislative branch election to fill vacancy. He also reminded us of the amendments that is presented by the Reno District. He said we were talking about committee, having it in committee. We're willing to bring our district council record staff to come and sit in on that. And we got, we're also looking at possibly, hopefully if we can, finding these election turn our polling into electronic rather than ballot, but that would call for more amendments. He also covered water compact matters, and then travel regulatory, again, the SMACRA, the CCRO, and then also the Little Bighorn College BIA discussions on land for their parking lot, etc. Charter agreement, deferred pending further board of trustee action. Colease administration, Westmoreland Resource Incorporated, Track 1, annual rental payments, permitting and jurisdictional issues he covered. Cloud Peak Energy, he also covered the sage grouse rules meeting. CTL, I guess he says support Great Northern Plain discussion and other developers. Excelergy, he just kind of gave us a little update on that, where we're at on that. Rights of ways and renewals, he was talking about Williston Basin, gas pipeline, Northwest Energy pipeline, and the electric transmission line. The WAPA, Bighorn County Electric Transmission Line, which is pending tribal court litigation. Phillips 66, the closeout on the spill. Neiman, fiber to the premises, meaning to the tribal buildings and government buildings. Montana DOT school bus turnaround project located here in Crow Agency by, let's see who would live there, Pancho, Big Man. There would be I don't know if you're familiar with that, but what the DOT wants to do is build a school bus stop there for the students. So there's a nice draft and design, and I believe the vice chairman has the designs on that. Communications, utility taxes and invoices, energy mineral development, Wild Bend exploration agreement, so that's still pending in the process. Blue water amendments, gas pipeline access, elderly limestone, invite letter to embassy. Chairman recommends to find another source there, another company. And then Elk Petroleum collection effort. Wolf Mountain Reserve, Johnson Hope Family Land. What that one was is, I believe there was over several townships for sale with the Hope land where they're getting ready to mine, as well as up on Corral Creek. Other pending items, fee to trust resolution, leasing ordinance amendments, land acquisition, Socoa That's the youth camp training deal. Buffalo Pasture, Elk River Outfitters, oil and gas revenue sharing agreements with Montana, Sierra Club litigation. We're actually a party to that now. The Sierra Club is suing the Montana DEQ on the CHIA. And what the CHIA is the hydrology part of mining. And what the Sierra Club is saying is that the waters are contaminated, the aquifers are contaminated, but these were reviewed by the Office of Surface Mining as well as Montana DEQ. And that's the whole purpose of having well monitors. And so we became a party to that because Westmoreland being, having those same type of CHIA reports at the Rosebud mine are the same as the Zollico mine. Corporation Code Review, LLC Act, Old Casino Office, Supply Workers Claim. That issue there, we had Head Start hire a contractor to come into the old casino to move some furniture, and they got pretty sick. So there were some insurance claims on the tribe based on that. They said that the whole place was fumigated, and then these workers came in without knowing, got pretty sick, ended up getting hospitalized. And that's about it. The last was kind of an update on the casino with the IRS debt. I can go on and on with all these particular details, but that's just kind of a broad overview of the last 3 months. And if there's any questions, I'm glad to answer at this time.
Floor is open for any questions. Floor recognizes Eric Brown.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, executive, I'd just like to say I do appreciate you doing your report and stuff. We do appreciate what's going on. What I wanted to say, I'm a member of the election board committee, and we need to introduce that absentee, and we wanted to just let it know for the record that we'd like to set up those meetings with you so we can get moving forward on those ordinances and those ballots. And I believe me and Mr. Hill here are interested in ballots, electronic ballots and stuff. You know, we need to address those issues. I know we got a lot of business out there and stuff we need to do, but you know, when it comes down to it, we need to start taking care of crows. You know, what are the issues here? You know, and I know all of you that we wait over, you know, I don't know how many, 12 hours just to find out who won the election, stuff like that. You know, and we're willing to work with you and move forward on this. Just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Is there any more questions? Brandon?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of the body and visitors. On this timber deal you got going on with the 3 affiliated, is the tribe looking into bringing homes here too as well, or are we just selling logs to them, or how's that go?
Right now, it's the initial stages. Like I said, we want to get all the factors involved because, just like the chairman said, we don't want to sell a resource and not recoup. We don't want to sell a resource and not look out for our own. So his recommendation was, why don't we, even if that doesn't go through, why don't we do it for ourselves? At the same time, they're willing to give us a discount on homes at about $80,000 per home, and utilizing our timber. But when the Amish are the ones who are the lead foremans on their carpentry program there, and those discussions would be coming here too. So it's not like we're just going to create something and throw it in your lap. You know, we want to 18, 24, 22 brains are better than 1 or 2, and ultimately the goal is utilize the resource. So, you know, I hope we can utilize it in a way where it benefits the crows, because have we ever utilized the resource? Right now it's pretty slim.
I wanted to ask, where is this timber going to be taken from, just out of curiosity?
currently there's permits in the WOOFs, and then there's also availability in the priors. Right now, we wanna look at the feasibility of allotted lands too as well, because there's a lot of allotted ground that can be developed. So that would also benefit the landowners. You have, I wish the forestry director was here. You have timber out there that is at its max age, so it's not growing anymore. So there is no regrowth, and a good forestry management plan would facilitate that. Meanwhile, you would utilize it as lumber. So again, that's why in the beginning stages, entering into the office, we said we're gonna set aside so many acres for a nursery program. And I caught hell for that, because everyone was thinking of what kind of nursery, you know, but it was for trees. You know, I was like, what's going on?
Mr. Speaker.
That way, that's what you call a renewable resource. So it's not like we're gonna go harvest everything and then there's no more trees. We wanna start planting and, again, you know, reintroducing these same species back into these forest areas.
Floor recognizes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and executive branch, and guests. Kind of to help out, Iraqi and Bonja, Kaimana, Pirigizaim, Idios, Alabera, Segin Karahapi, Gil. Again, away to go, Bashi, Gil, Koda Jigagas, Kara Chibirushka, Hirage, Kokostek. Again, Diruchsagi warriors are Konata Alabera Kukariuk, get you pop or go to get a Mirihus and lost trick took and could be a barge or what charge get there. You are guys, I gave a Mirishi son, no again, Markfish. Alatan had our guys came could there, Taj Gilpres, I think I just looked at the map. This were Kunkuning a large profile, but you could take your kid. You couldn't work at the Bao Saga, Hirage, a Bahus Potato, each is Kamala 2006-7, Taija Bajo, Profigate, Ohala, Bapo. Hit a forest management plan, good there, skid trails, good there, modern and numbershad, hit a piece, relation, Yage. Ohala, each gas, which you Bapo, go ahead and not pay Balash and Quaila, Chiniwa, Chile. I get little gig, ease of wood of Ohala. Could there, each gas, or what charge do you watch? Hit a Hiriko Wawazu, but they watch it, a mop paid. Kole, you walk your sort, Yage, Bill Gerukashum, Kunahorubu. Bachi, you put a whole choose as Ash Buzu. Spooky goes at the Tommy Deep and goes, Dilu now, till they hit that. Kone, I watch a chicken, there's no elk. And EA get that environmental assessment, get them right off the Custer National Forest. They have elk there. Migratory route, cheese factory, power line, get them Kone. EGD gas machine. Ala Washkawigas and New had headed Iwakisa stage, Bajan Pahum, Hina EG Gasha, a Mawash Council could take a watch to cut object to you. Him, I get it. Mark was potato. And you, Heavy came here, you was take the forest management plan, get him near Ipchera, Pish, a number. Modular to get there, you and egg overstake. They had milk, itchy march, cook, idios, Alabella, cook, who are
Benson.
Thank you. Young Bashir trade, young 10 years ago, good is every 10 years, at least good it do. Oh, Kuchi, young good tight. You got it, Bashir, just a week, Swedish. Swedish walk. You want to go whom, ik got it, Bashir. Hope did it. And Cree got it. There's a bill by to Cree, he host it. He wrote to host it. Oh, dear.
We have Ammon Pretty Paint, who's taken over the forestry, and he'll be the point of contact. And we were looking at Thompson over there by Chady, and there's already areas where they cruise the timber for harvest. So take your TSR to Ammon and see if it's within that area that was cruised. We can go from there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Floor regulates Tyson.
Yeah, I'm all for this timber sale. As long as we leave the Bighorn Mountains alone, that's one of the last places on the reservation that never been touched, and a lot of people enjoy it during the summertime. And it's pretty up there. Thanks.
There's a resolution that does not allow for logging, so it's already protected.
More questions? Conrad?
Speaking to the issue on the Accelergy, I think maybe if we could expound on, I guess there's a request, 120,000 acres, that, where are we at with that?
Currently, the inventory that we did have was for the farm and ranch, and being that the chairman hasn't executed the current leases yet, we're still making a tally on those. The hardest part about this research is you have tracts expiring. Take that map, for example, the reservation one with the red being the tribal land. What happens there is you don't have consolidated tracts. So what we're trying to do is get the tracts close enough to each other. So as this operation endeavors that way, it doesn't have to go to Pryor, then up Black Lodge, and then down to Wyola. There's no sense in, we're just trying to consolidate these, and so that's where we're at right now. And the Farm and Ranch director hasn't gotten back to me yet on that, but he's working on that. There's the Shack Ranch just come up, and that had some good acreage in there, but it still didn't meet the demand of 140,000.
I know I mentioned to some of the senators here that we were talking about, and it was a good discussion that you brought up about the 120,000. Is if we go dry land or irrigable land, which one are we looking at, yield, or are we just looking at acreage? And that was a good question. That I think that'd be something that we probably have to ask Rocco. But if it's the latter, then we might not need all the 120,000. That's what I was hoping. Well, if we do have enough.
You made a good point. With me and the Senator Stewart there, we were talking about that when he first asked as to the acreage. See, the irrigated acres will produce more than dry farm. An example, I'll just use alfalfa. You can harvest in one growing season minimum of 4 tons an acre, but on dry farm, you're lucky to get 2, depending on the demographic or the geographic area where you're at on the reservation. There are some places, like say closer to the mountain, that would grow good hay, but again, that might only be 2 cuttings. Where you're irrigated, you can get up to 4 cuttings if done right. So again, back to Senator Stewart, what he was saying is, do you really need that many acres? Was that dry farm or was that irrigated? Because if it's irrigated, you would need less if there's a certain tonnage thereafter. So not a total of 120 or 140,000. If there isn't any more questions, I asked Steve Rigo to come in, if he could, reintroduce himself to the legislative body. He's been been a big player in this coal regulatory office as a consultant. I just wanted him to introduce himself real quick. If Steve, if you can come up and
introduce yourself.
Floor recognizes Steve Riegel.
Mr. Chairman, Secretary, body. I'm a little unprepared. I came here for a meeting at 3 o'clock. I didn't quite assume to be with the legislature, but about how much time do you want to allow for a summary of the status of the CCRO and the smart primacy program?
This should have been done Wednesday during the committee, department request, but I'm just allowing it right now just for a brief
5
introduction.
minutes or so?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
I'm Steve Riegel. I'm with R&R Consulting, and I've worked with a number of the legislators here and others on a primacy program for the Crow tribe to assume jurisdiction administering the Surface Mine Control and Reclamation Act. That's an act was enacted in 1977 by Department of Interior, U.S. Department of Interior. The Federal Office of Surface Mining has been regulating all coal mining and reclamation activities on Crow coal and on Crow surface since 1977. In 2006, the United States Congress allowed, finally, all of the individual tribes in the United States to assume primacy in that regulation. There are only 4 tribes that are really eligible that have coal. That's the Crow, Cheyenne, the Navajo, and the Hopi. 2 tribes so far that are working on this primacy program are the Crow tribe and the Navajo. And a lot of progress has been made. It's slower than any of us hoped and thought. But the status right now is that there has been a code that the legislature passed and the executive branch signed off on in 2010. That code is one of the main pieces, of course. That's the law that would be counterpart to the Surface Mine Control and Reclamation Act. That law has been being informally reviewed by the Office of Surface Mining, both the Denver office and the Casper office. There's been some delays. There's only so many attorneys go around, both on the federal level and on the Crow Tribes level. So there's been, the judicial procedures have been a little bit slow in being incorporated, but some real progress has been made just this week. I did get a draft document from Bill Watt and Kristen Berg, who are in your Cross Legal Counsel, and Heather Whiteman runs him, who used to be in your Cross Legal Counsel and is now with Native American Relief Fund, right? NARF, yeah. And they've drafted a document. I've gotten some documents that are being shared from the Navajo along the same lines. So that's one big piece. There are nine major components to a submittal to the federal government for you as a tribe to get that primacy achieved. One of them is the code, the law. Second one is the regulations. Those have been drafted. They've been reviewed by the Crow Coal Regulatory Office and by Cross Legal Counsel. They're still in draft form and waiting for things to work out on the code and on the judicial procedures. The other pieces are basically can be categorized, kind of subcategorized into 2 main things. One is the Crow Coal Regulatory Office will be working very closely with either EPA or the Crow Tribe if the Crow Tribe receives approval for treatment as a state by EPA to administer the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. But there are others. BLM has been administering exploration on behalf of the Crow Tribe on Crow coal outside the reservation and on Crow coal inside the reservation. There are a number of other agencies, federal agencies, that are involved too, the Mine Safety and Health Administration, as well as some Crow agencies, the Crow tribal agencies that are also involved. The Tribal Historic Preservation Office, Cultural Office, or Cultural Department, I guess it is now, and the Crow Fish and Game. So there will be, the third big piece is cooperating agency agreements. How will Crow Fish and Game, Crow FIPO, Crow Coal Regulatory Office, as well as BLM, OSM, how's everybody going to work things out? We've drafted some recommendations. Secretary's looked at these when he was the director of CCRO, and they're still seem to be valid as far as Office of Surface Mining is concerned. The fourth category is, as I've said over and over, I guess, is everything else. There are some letters from your coastal legal counsel that need to be drafted, showing legal authority of the CCRO on behalf of the Crow Tribe, budgets, personnel, all of the infrastructure that goes into managing a program like this. Those pieces have been very tentatively put together, but they're sort of waiting too to receive exactly what develops with the code and the regulations. The other thing is I think very important to point out is that, as I said, the Office of Surface Mining attorneys are stretched real thin, as are Crow Tribe. Other resources are stretched pretty thin too. So the Office of Surface Mining has been working with the Crow Tribe on an interim program, which is a program whereby the Crow Coal Regulatory Office personnel, you have a director, there are 5 full-time employees and some part-time employees. You have a building that houses both the Crow Coal Regulatory Office for what's called Title V, which is this mining and reclamation group, as well as your abandoned mine group. So that building, the vehicles, the staff, have already been put in place in this interim program. And training, there's some very good training going on. Deneen Big Hair is here today. She's been giving some training. 2 inspectors out, Marvin Stewart. So there's some real headway being made. I think that's probably the best way to go in 5 minutes. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Steve?
Thank you.
As Steve said, it took many years going through it, page by page, word by word, as you remember, Steve, through the overhead here. Anyway, thank you, AJ. Is that it? Okay. Well, recognizes Vice Secretary Sean Wilbert, former Senator Sean Beck. That's all right, both big laughs, so. Got you off the hook, Pat. That's twice.
Good afternoon. I'm the Office of Vice Secretary, Sean Backbone, Legislature's body, executive. To give you a brief report on going-ons with our office, on my oversight, I passed out some flyers there to look at an agenda, and we're really working on January 2014. The Apsalaga Warrior Department's construction designs completed by Carl Littleall. The phases of it is already there, and all we have to do is go through the process with this program. And as you see, there will be construction, tribal veterans preference with the contracting, the hiring, be going through the TERO director, subcontractors, laborers, etc. Groundbreaking ceremony. I will be informing you of that date because I want the legislative branch there, pretty much everybody. It's a pretty big day for us as the veterans. And I'll have a day for you there. And on the Boys and Girls Club, we got William Snell to establish a Boys and Girls Club of the Crow Nation that is a tax exempt. And we've been working on him. I passed out a progress report as of January 15th, 2014. And you can go through that, and that is the report of that issue on the Boys and Girls Club. Reason being is we wanted to be a nonprofit tax exempt status, so when they go after grants, it will be a long arm from the tribe, and it'll be run like a Boys and Girls Club should. So that's what we're aiming for, and that's what we want. And just moving right along into the All-American Indian Invitational, it was a huge turnout at the Shrine Auditorium. Our goal was pretty much met. We gave back $3,000 each to each school. And there was 4 schools: Lodge Grass, Plenty Coups, Lame Deer, and Crazy Horse. Lodge Grass took the championship.
And coming up to that point, we went to the state of Montana, talked with the Montana High School Association president, and he gave us his blessing on this tournament. He wanted to, we told him what we were gonna do. We asked him, we said, is this gonna be okay? And in writing, he gave it to us. He said, everything under $50 as an award is good. So we got all that taken care of, and we went on with our tournament. And it was a success because it's for the youth. We had MVPs, we have all-stars, and it's the first of its kind in the state of Montana. And what it's entailing to is something bigger for next year. We got 8 teams we're looking at right now, some Wyoming schools. We got 3 so far that are interested, Mandaree, Newtown, and Parshall. I want to put that in for the record. We got these other schools that are interested. So that is what it's entailing. Have you ever been to the Lakota National Invitational? That's what we kind of phased it all off of. The state of South Dakota has a 16 tournament right before Christmas, and it's all Indian. And the proceeds and everything, they all put in there. And it's a big tournament. And it brings out your education, your talent, and it brings a lot of money into Rapid City. And I checked in their grand entry, and when that grand entry was going on, I was watching it. And at the end, when all the 36 teams were on the floor, they brought in the governor, the senator, and they endorsed this program. And I think that's a good thing because all the votes for them are right there, and I believe them gentlemen will be in office for quite a while for endorsing such a good event. That's what we want to get to. And we had the mayor there towards the end. But when this happens, next year it's the 10th is, December 10th is on a Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is what we're looking for. And we want to get the Billings involved because we put a lot of money into this, into Billings at that time. And in return, we want Billings to help us out with motels and different venues. Because that's our per cap. We bring a lot of money, millions of dollars into that Billings. So we want them to, in return, to help us out with bed tax, different things. The motels are, some of them are guest hotels. And so we kind of want to get something going there. And it's just not for, for the youth. It's for the Indian clubs, the JROTC programs, all the stuff that has to do with youth to our basketball. We want to bring that pride and the winning back to the game of basketball and all that it entails. Because the Indian basketball is a moneymaker in the state of Montana. If you go watch the AA teams at a championship game, there's empty seats. If you go watch an Indian go to a state championship tournament, that place is jam-packed. And we have a hand in this. So we want to bring that back and see where we can as an organization, as a tribe, and as a people to bring all this back so we can get something going in this round. Take it to the next level is what we're trying to do. So thank you for your support at that time. It was a really huge success. So with that being said, going back to the veterans, we just, Paul Littlelight just got through, chairman just signed a paper, and Paul Littlelight is going after a grant that is awarded to the veterans, which we'll have our own cemetery. It's over $1 million we'll have our own veteran cemetery. Be kind of like Custer Battlefield, but be for Crow veterans. And it's a big honoring. We come a long way. Even this flag here, it's big. If you come around outside Hardin and you see it and it's flying, it feels good to have a flag because in this nation, you're in a nation and you fly under that flag. And my charge, it's something good. It's never been done. So with this judicial branch, the legislative branch, the executive branch as one, when we move, we make things happen. And it has to come to a consensus, what we've been doing. And it's all business. So I just want to say that on behalf of my office, and my office door is always open. Come, Dula, visit me. I got coffee. I got a brand new bun coffee maker. Come over. Good coffee.
Peanut butter cookies.
Yeah. Yes. Nutter butters. Yeah. But and all that being said, it's going, and you know, it's got to do with support. And the other one is I just gotta read this off into the record. Cloud Peak Energy Award scholarship to the Crow Tribe students. Ever since the chairman signed the Cloud Peak, the scholarship awards have been given out ever since then to now. So I'm just gonna read off who, for the record, that the recipients of the scholarships of the 2013 Cloud Peak Energy Scholarship awardees. Ronald Beaumont Jr., Montana State University City College. David Buffalo, Little Bighorn College. Michael Buffalo, Syracuse University. Cassina Gardner, Little Bighorn College. Rania Gramblin, Salish Kootenai College. Sabrina Half, Montana State University Billings. Alvanus Hogan, Little Bighorn College. Brittany Iron, Little Bighorn College. Ivana Lambert, MSU Billings. Thea Littlelight, Little Bighorn College. Dustin Littleout, Little Bighorn College. Justin Oakhild, Arizona Auto Institute. Rudolph Okro Jr., Little Bighorn College. Byron Realbird, Little Bighorn College. Madonna Robinson, Rocky Mountain College. Jolene Spotted Bear, Little Bighorn College. Melton Spotted Bear Jr., Little Bighorn College. Emery Three Irons, MSU Bozeman. Monica Turns Plenty, MSU Bozeman. George Two Moons Jr., Little Bighorn College. Raymond White Jr., Little Bighorn College. Charlene Whiteman, MSU Bozeman. Those are the recipients of the awardees for our scholarship for the Cloud Peak. And that's going good. It has to do with a 2-point average. And we're putting this through education and whatever they're doing. That's what we're looking at, them kind of getting our youth ready for this education part of this whole project. So on behalf of the Vice Secretary's office, do you have any questions, concerns?
Floor is open for questions. Conrad.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, executive officials. Sean, on this Boys and Girls Club, when is it? Is this going into effect here soon, or are we?
Yeah, we're working on it right now. Right now, we're speaking process, so probably we're looking at, we're gonna bring it into a committee, put it in committee, and work on it until the next session.
So we're looking at April upon passage,
Pretty sure,
okay.
pretty sure.
All right, yeah, because this is something that I'm happy that we're finally pursuing this and trying to do it right, you know. It seems like the last administrations, they did a Boys and Girls Club and then they throw them in a barn and hope for the best, and it's no good, you know. And you know, you go to these other tribes and man, these Boys and Girls Clubs, they have really nice vans and shuttles, and they even as you walk in, they have a lock, first lock is right there, and then they have a receptionist sitting there, and they, upon any kind of a threat, they can cage it right now. And then as you're going to go into wherever the building is, however they structure it, they have a security lock right there as you're going in. And all of that was structured on Boys and Girls Club monies. You know, the one I seen was over in Wisconsin. It was really impressive. And going in there, they had everything. And you know, they had right down to computers, laptops, everything, and they had a gym. You know, everything was funded. All the sports equipment. It was kind of like almost like a semi YMCA kind of a Boys and Girls Club, and it was pretty good. They had all this new equipment, and they had the old vans they had, and then they had new vans, and you know, they had like 4 vans and 2 shuttles, and it was all tribe. It was tribally owned, and well, I guess it was under the tribe, but it was kind of an arm's length. So that was the thing that they had. And then of course, you know, the Cheyennes, they severed from theirs, and then it took off, and they were receiving like $650,000 grants, and then they received new leadership, and of course they kind of seen all that money and they jumped in there, and now it's kind of down again. So I mean, just the examples of how sometimes politics it's not the answer, you know? And when we have something good, we don't wanna kill it, you know, with something like that, we just want to let it flourish, but I think this is good, I appreciate that, I hope.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Stuart? Floor recognizes Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body. Itchigi na shan ya ge haji je itchigi ashta. Yek hirage na veterans kada disapte gigaku zapte de shage haji de itchigi data hirage na ya khisse ta ge ga bukche de do. Bari wala system ko ga mashi de amash tu I gedau in bale kyoe ke ira ge ko de bala humaniste khalwo ku ke amala boskosa ere iru magala ira ge da code I wa khis da stage chige ira ge I campaign gra yekku de ko ta ere ge mashi de yekku de kun in itchik bale je ba wiskya ira ge odam ku mai hasa da ispa ho ge tajika I ho ga eta viru na absorb Isaac Vigilish, Oga, Laga, Mitchik, but as you get Maviskia, Nobis Kusse, nobody watch, as you are, a riptiders for Hua, Eligio, a code, a Haji, or Vilu Maviskia, where you get the Kagoshu, a mixture to say, you cut bomb.
Oh, any more questions? Oh, Sean.
Ik lees scholarships, you leads now, Janice, Kingsman High. What I'm going to check the look at paperwork going now.
Floor recognizes the chairman of the Pro Tribal Executive Branch, Darren Coyote.
Lagig Bawaladum Dude what you get good afternoon to members of the legislative branch, Speaker, Secretary. We handed out some it's kind of for your information, it's this is the voucher for the per capita December 2013 per capita. The total amount is $3,465,000, and that was distributed to a total of 13,455 Pro Tribal members at $260 a piece. And that's for the December payment. So that's as of December 10th, 2013, there was 13,455 tribal members, and we average about 200 per quarter. So that number will almost be 14,000 by the end of this year. That's the total membership, total amount we paid out in December. Sean, you know about the basketball tournament in Billings. Probably majority of that $3 million went to the Billings merchants and different businesses in Billings. So we talked to the county commissioner, Mr. Kennedy of Yellowstone County, and he acknowledged that this is happening, and next year we'll get you guys into the metro age. That's kind of where we're at with that. And then the next one's I have a kind of a budget breakdown of the $10 million, the different areas. And then the C-Store project teams, I don't know if you got that. It's this page here with different teams. Yeah? And the way I have this set up is the convenience store teams for each site. Each team will look at a possible location or locations in their respective assigned districts. If the site is an existing location, meetings will be set up to negotiate purchase of site. please report back the progress of your prospective district C-store project by January 30th. That's 2 weeks from now. Economic Development Cabinet Head, Janice will appoint an individual from his office to each project. And then Carla from the CPA, Legal. And then Paul Gassmeyer has done some work in Black Lodge, Lodge Grass, and Bighorn area. His info is available for reference. Project teams by district. Wild project team lead would be Vice Chairman Wilson, and then the mighty few legislatures, Brandon Jr. and Gerald, and then Janice will appoint a Economic Development Department appointee. Lodge Grass project, Secretary Not Afraid. The legislatures, Mr. Ocrow and Tyson, and Janice will appoint a Economic Development Department appointee. And then in prior, myself and Janice and Yolanda. Yolanda has already done some work in the prior area and in the legislature. Carlson Duke Ozed, Bryce Hoods, and Lawrence D. Crane will be the team for the prior project. Black Lodge, myself and Jeannie, along with the legislatures, Greg, Jolly, and CJ, will be working on the Black Lodge project. And then the Bighorn District project, Vice Secretary Backbone will be the team lead. And then the three legislatures, Pat Alden, Paul Spotted Jr., and Vincent Crooked Arm, and then Janice will appoint an Economic Development appointee. And then the next page shows the budget for each project. Prior, the existing corner store, we have to sit down and negotiate with them, and we put in $625,000 to acquire the existing facility. Would cost around $400,000. We're still doing the numbers and still to sit down with the folks in Prior. And then Lodge Grass, right now we're working with Farmers Union. We're looking through their financials right now, and we're estimating about $400,000 for that project. New development, the Wyola will be a new development, so they would have to find an existing site, or look for a site in Wyola, and the working capital, and then the total amount is $475,000. Just to give you an idea, the current Wyola community hall costs $200,000, and I'll give you a breakdown, a summary of how much it will cost to do the gas station and other parts of the building. And then St. X Bighorn project would be $525, and then Black Lodge $525, and then we added in the cost of the project manager for 3 years for the project manager, and then after that it'll be this project will be self-sufficient. And then business development, $50,000, and this will go towards the market analysis for each district. You do a survey, what's the need of the community, a business plan, and then administrative costs. If you guys have meetings and you want to draw down from that, there's $50,000 there for business development. And then land purchase, I know the church in Dunmore, they're asking price that they're looking at is like $100,000, but the cost of the building, and I put $94,000, but you could still use the new development monies from the Black Lodge project to offset that cost. And the total amount for all the C stores is on the bottom. That's the breakdown for the C stores. And we're a project, how we came to the project manager, a certified, qualified project manager in Montana is like $81,000 for big projects, and so that's what we estimated this on. And then right now the development of the convenience stores, an average cost is like $400,000 to $500,000 from ground up, and that's what we based this on. All the convenience stores. So with that, get with your team leads and start working on those projects, because I think a lot of people want to see, they see stores and, business up and running and reservation and creating jobs. So I gave ourselves, all the teams, at least 2 weeks to start working on all next week and the week after to work on these, so that we can come, at least a status report by January 30th. And for the Fort Smith and Lodgegrass, Gasmeyer has done some work, and also Black Lodge, so you could get with him and get that information. And the prior project, we still need to sit down with the current owners in prior Cornerstone. But we are looking at adding machines to these convenience stores for an added employment and also revenue. So all the analysis would have to be done by the respective groups. And I know Reno feels left out, but we got a project for you, so don't worry. On this breakdown, we have the casino development. We set aside $550,000 for an indoor arena, and I'll have George talk about that here shortly. They did do some work on that, and that indoor arena will be here in Crow. So that's where the Reno District representatives will be assisting the executive branch on the indoor arena and development of that project. So, but we already have some price quotes for the size and the amount of for the arena and everything else that entails. And then the farm and ranch, Jordan has done some work on the farming aspect of it, and I think that was turned into the legislature about a week ago. And then the centralized copiers, that's we're working on a JAR for that. The farm and ranch, and then also the casino development indoor arena, and then the hydro, we have a budget for that, and then the C-store project, we have the budget for that. So those will be forthcoming for the JAR for all the projects. And as far as energy, oil and gas, we are looking at an East Gray Blanket project. There's an existing well up on Gray Blanket, and the Crow tribe owns the surface and the minerals, and the well was abandoned back in mid-70s, and this is a low-risk prospect, and so we'll be meeting with the Natural Resource Subcommittee, and I'll leave a copy with CJ so all of you can get a copy of this. This is a report from Dave Lopez, who we have on contract to be our geologist, and then we could sell prospects. Before, we would do a lot of exploratory, and since we didn't have a prospect, we would lose some royalty and some bonus because of that. But now we have Dave Lopez on board who can get a prospect ready, and then we go and sell it to a company. So that's Dave Lopez, and I'll leave a copy of this project summary. And then I have on the table here is October, November, and December, from emergency to people that come in for lights, propane, bereavement. That's the amount of we gave out $75,000 in emergency funds for the first quarter, and those are all the emergency. And some of them are, for like the Christmas banquet for the churches up in Billings. We paid for the rooms for the pastors that came in, the visiting pastors. We paid for some of the folks that went down to Vegas for the Anaphar from the tribe, and those are all included in that. So it ranges from emergencies to bereavement to assisting rodeo contestants, students, churches, And I just wanted to show you kind of the amount of work that our office, all the emergencies come to my office, so all the officials bring a list of people that they want to help, or that, that are asking for assistance. And those are the, if you want to go through them, it's kind of wide range of, it goes by month. But it goes from, emergencies. I just brought that to show you, how much work our office from November to December, that's 3 months of requests. And it's churches to students to people that don't have propane, to light bills, to rent, to, it's all emergencies. And then, I use that. And then they're handing out cash liabilities. On there you'll see the 12 million. That's from the 2013 or 2014 budget, all the cash liabilities. DOJ, 300,000. We paid that in December. Aiken Gump, we paid 500,000 in December. For Christmas, all the people that applied for a loan across the board, we gave out 160,000 from October to December in loans. Emergency was 75,000. That's what's in the folders. From during the cold spell, we had an emergency response, and in that we helped elders with propane, lights, and even going out to their houses and checking on them. We spent well over 200,000 on that. But we're still, we're working on our current budget. We have 32 million in our current budget, but also at the same time, all these liabilities, some of them we had to pay within this fiscal year. And we did pay DOJ 300,000 because if we didn't pay, the grant, we couldn't apply for, we'd be penalized for not paying that. Aiken Gump, 500,000. We still owe them. I believe it was at 2 million when we drafted this liabilities, but now we're down to like 1.3 that we owe Aiken Gump. But I wanted to show you all these liabilities because right now I'm at a point where I have to lay off, a lot of employees because a lot of these liabilities we have to pay because like the 3.2 the top one, the road transit, the 3.2 was drought down in late 2012 and was used to hire employees in 2012 before the October. And then the IHSBI advance was also drought down to pay for employees in late fall. Good Earth Lodges, $1 million. 5 or 10 homes were supposed to be built, only 3 were complete, but the 1.5 was spent by housing back in 2012. The road and transit 3.2 is for a building, an actual building, and the money is no longer there. It was spent in 2012. The district donation, that's something kind of a something that we want to add to the budget. The DOJ liability and this per cap liability 783 is all these years the per cap that's been sitting there nobody's picked up. That money was spent in 2012 going right into the general fund. So these are all money that that we would need to pay. And right now, we're at a point where we have to lay off some employees to, start looking at ways to pay for some of this 12 million. And that's my report. Any questions?
Sorry, no questions? Councilman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and the Chair Nokile. And again, the cash liabilities more, that's part of the 32 million for the fiscal 2014 budget. But the cut book was an op page in the budget for that. And again, بخسارة خسيت باي واي تو بري واي بريش صاروا جت تبشر بريش باي وشتى ده بابا مشربوا يجن بجيب شروادش بلا يو نهاية road transit يحسيليو نباليش كروزات هلين نقول يجكم يحسيليو باواسوجي Ivishti wasura ka bayar khazak wasura ka chi balai ruchura ka ni sam magic. And hinage na budget there up employees payroll ish up hinage dia ish pa shewa wa ka shkergo. Dishti was a there to start again. Narish pai wishte there stum kara kun kolak. Show you itchiga. Kanishte baza but that bishtam machtuluk employees kadesh bidashi furlough or layoff, cook layoff. And pull it they do give shbirach but he was wait to Marlin. And cook heridik and irage na khisse the big old guy. 12 million up, but each five there should not budget cut out. And payroll, they had every 2 weeks, 1 million that employees could get each five state out, but payroll would touch that. This was a buy 1 million that again, there's 26 pay periods. Again, speaker, his sake. Add up, cut 1 million. Plus 26 is 26 million, and you got a $32 million budget. Short day, con double shoe guy, na. Short day, yo, why used the module saga, could go to jail, and by the gonna go to saga, big total magic, $12 million liability, that. And make in a fiscal 2014 budget, could the cut budget again, Birikosha, na Jays, na legal Jays. Ekum, Chapita, the razor board to that. And the liability, Ganesh couldn't hear us to the CPA, get out, and could go ahead of us. And each is a budget to that liability, get ahead of us. This by which they did. Here is a meal money and after that. Breva, what do we need? Over your deed. And Hirage, Biwaka Giru make Wednesday, Gadesh, Marlon Aiken, the Bilhu, Bihum, Kagonaga, they cook a meal east to the Hukas, while that either Kadim make Marlon Aiken, the Urubiask, and use it to my Kunisha now, Hukas, either while the American ones, I feel I have anyways, you graduate to go down and I get you a home after me. What can you do about my phone calls and read it? And you can go a share get a live stream, but again, a law computers always break a call. And what it big text of live stream, but give a mama for it, transparency will not be got on project to you. And you, again, na his site, but it could go to visual. My ability to get them from fish by mistake, but you couldn't up by it again. na bala wa da jam baga giusto wa milk go.
And then not only this liability, ever since August, water resource, 200 plus million minimum, it's sitting in a bank under water resource. And Bureau of Reclamation, BOR, water compact, we have to work with BOR to access that fund. And annual funding agreement, and we did a proposal with them back in August. Agreement turning about reimbursement in the meantime, they want us to do these projects and then plan for the irrigation and the MRNI plan. They want us to finish the plan, but they're not giving us any money since August. Oxel and Dane Slush, the ones that were at that meeting, legal club. I'll be at the meeting next Thursday. Go meeting there. At Bawachijin, all the work we've done since that time to now, 900,000, and general fund had to flip the bill for that. Babish. Annual funding agreement. Hucks Aiken Gump do Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday. Annual funding agreement. Kalei Haluk. It's not going to be a reimbursement, it's going to be an advance. And Mabish agreement, annual funding agreement signed book for 10 million under the water compact. So it's not going to be a reimbursement anymore. We're going to get that money in advance. And I got projects there, they're ready to go under the irrigation and MRNI. That's 900,000 that we had to pay from August to now. And so far, from October to December, we looked at 400,000 for water resource. Up to December last year, all the employees we had cash on hand all the way up to Naba. And the cash on hand, last year, right here, the Cloud Peak money. And that cash was on hand. But say everything was central account. That if federal money would come in, general fund would come in. It was all one account. Gold accounts today separate. Federal separate and general separate. Because federal money is that we can't access because account him knew all right in here. We all agreed. General fund drawdowns go rely on it. There's no money in your account in the general fund. You have money for federal and you have money for water, but they're separate accounts. But say one account, the way we have it set up, different accounts, Luke. So that's why checks aren't being made because there's $0 in your account. Drawdown, so hold them sign up, but reimbursement from the water resource, reimbursement from roads, 2.5 million. Agreement today, on roads, 2.5 on leases, but still people want their roads plowed and people sent out to do work, and we're still continuing the service, but we're not getting paid for it. And that's where we're at. Then cash liabilities, there's some payments we have to make by December, and then we had to provide some services without cash being there because roads and water, they wanted these done, but yet they wouldn't draw down the money. That's the way I get cash. And then over at my office, there's probably 10 to 15 people wanting help with their propane, their lights, all these emergencies. Because there's no cash on hand. And that's why economic stimulus C-stores, that each of those districts we could start creating jobs, especially prior Lush Grass and Senex. Like as soon as we sign an agreement, we can take over and start making money and start creating jobs. They go you outside, you know. And board of horse raising will come back with another portion to that and start creating jobs there and creating revenue. In arena, it's the same thing. It's going to create jobs and revenue. And those are all economic stimulus could output change for we're going to have to lay off close to 300, but at the same time, and then projects that if we move them forward, you know, it's not going to balugash same for these folks that are going to be laid off. So and 32 million budget down. That's already earmarked. This is what we're going to use it for. Macomb was out. But you still have that 12 million that you have to think about to start paying. And we're starting to pay that. That's why the general fund is hurting. If we don't pay these grants with you, and they'll draw down. 1.2 that was for a building, roads and transit building. Maybe draw down. One account, general fund. Was last 2012 October, before October, and those are cash liabilities. Those are real numbers that you have. Finance crunch that I do, but then we have this 10 million sitting there as a economic stimulus to help those people that are going to be laid off. So there's still light at the end of the tunnel. And then I got a storage allocation agreement. Could add negotiate. We're doing negotiations on that. I got the last meeting I had with the BOR in DC, along with Aiken Gum, Don Pongres. The water, the storage behind the dam. You have to call for that water to get to Afterbay. This water is yours behind the dam. You call for it to get to Afterbay to make the hydro, and then the state of Montana wants natural flow, and the fishing on. And when it goes through that turbine at the dam, you're going to have to pay us tolling. Tolling. I got to toll them too today. You pay that toll to get through that, to make it through that. Same thing, tolling fee. Get them, you got to pay us. And that's storage allocation agreement. We're working on that, and that's going to be part of that. That's money in the bank, right away as soon as the agreement's done. So that we're pushing that Tuesday. Kick off the first meetings. Storage allocation agreement. And I didn't want to take away from this session the way we kind of push that forward. When you're away from session, we'd like for you guys to be a part of those discussions, because storage allocation, it's part of the hydro and all the water behind the dam. You have to call for that to make power down at the hydro, and it goes through those turbines. The water's yours, again, writing it can before BMO with the government condemned it, but now it's in writing and it's yours. And Coca, that's what we're working on, storage allocation. And BOR, they're going to try to stop it, but tolling even on the interstate toll, we pay that. That's what we're going to do to them. The Indian coal production tax credit, Tuesday and Wednesday. Bacchus is leaving Senate. He's the chairman of finance. Since he's leaving, we're having a tough time trying to find a champion for Indian coal production tax credit. Danes on the House side will push it, and let's make it a permanent bill. He's going to push it on the House side, Ways and Means. Republicans going in control of the House. Bacchus, before I leave, I can make this my legacy, and I'll introduce a bill to permanent look by the tax credit, and that's where we're sitting right now. And with all this shifting, Bacchus leaving, shift Raja Tester Indian Affairs, but he'll be the chairman of Indian Affairs. That's the way people are talking in DC. We have on the Senate side, Democrats have control. On the House side Republicans have control, so both delegates are pushing for Crow Tribe. And that's very good news from DC. That's what we're pushing for. The tax credit expired on December 31st. And extenders bill, it's going to be a part of that, but they haven't voted on it yet. So right now we're without a tax credit until that's passed in the extenders bill. So with that, we'll next 28th and 29th of January, there's a Indian Energy Conference in Denver. And then NCAI, I'll be attending NCAI in DC on the 29th for executive board meeting. I'm the delegate for Montana Wyoming Tribal Leaders, and I'll be attending NCAI as the vice chairman of the Rocky Mountain region. So with that, any other questions?
Before I recognize Conrad.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I just, yesterday, I know you're probably aware of it. We had I called for Cloud Peak to come in and give us an update for the newly elected. And I think they heard it loud and clear that if we don't get that area up there for the export, then there's that possibility it's not gonna go on some of the other options. And then again, it was either one or two of the options that even if we don't get that, then Indian tax production credit, we get that, it's going to make it feasible to go in there and take action on all the developments. And so that was basically what it was all about. And that I know that those are issues today, and that we brought that forward. And I know that there was a lot of information that we brought out for these folks here and newly elected. And it was information that we've been privy to, developing for like 2.5 years. And so, it was looking at all the information and the effort that's being made, and trying to give them a full understanding that this is a joint effort. And I know the last time that we were able to go up, we weren't in session. Well, there was a special session, but at that time, Junior and I were able to go up there, and I know we spoke directly to the different offices of those senators, and I know that's the same thing that you guys are doing and continue to do. But like you're saying, without Baucus, it's going to be kind of tough because on the inside. But then again, he's going to be our ambassador to China, right? And he's pushing. He's pushing, and he's going to be over there, so that's going to be good. So there's a few things, I see elements that I think that's going to be working for us, and I know we do have a lot of information that needs to be heard in committee, and for the benefit of the branch here, and there's all these things coming about, but a lot of it takes money, and we're kind of in a fix where sometimes, we can't, we're in a position where if we don't have that funding to make these meetings, then it's going to be kind of tough on us to try to move forward in some of these areas in the expedited fashion and momentum that we would like to. And so, I was, after we heard what was going on, Marlon, we kind of basically, he confirmed a lot of the official grapevine information that's been kind of going around. Everybody's talking, and kind of frightful. And, I want to make suggestions that, I talked with Kristen about it, that we should make suggestions on different methods, so that way we're in accordance with the Workforce Protection Act. And then the other suggestion that I was liking to make is that if we were to, I know you guys I know you were part of that effort before. There's always, you know, I know Carl would always lay off around January, and then everyone would come back in April. Then they kick in that severance tax monies again, and then we take off again. But, you know, maybe we can bring in the unemployment folks, you know, maybe they could kind of coach them. Maybe some kind of sit down with them. That way they're not just out on their own, and sit down with them and let them know first week and kind of going through the process of however they need to file. And possibly, I know there's internally between the two branches, there's things that need to occur. And I was hoping that moving forward at the beginning of this new year, that we could get, you know, there's a lot of things going on. And on a grading scale, we're moving forward, and that's good. And to continue that momentum, I'd like to see if we can get both branches. I mean, even the 3 out of the 4 would be good, you know. If, you know, it'd be good if the 4 came, you know. But I know there's probably going to be a newly elected member here in Oshgrass, but we have 17 members here that could possibly, we can sit down and hash out a lot of this stuff that's been hanging over our heads, and then move forward on a clean slate. And that way, you know, whatever problems that you're possibly facing, maybe we can put all our heads together and come up with a solution that's going to fit the need of this momentum of positive change. I like to see that going forward some more. So with that, I just want to encourage the executive branch to think about these suggestions, and possibly we can look at a date, sit down, and then maybe we won't let Jay in the room, and we won't let Dow or Bill or anybody, or just the decision makers, and we'll sit down, drink some coffee, and make something happen. Oh,
CJ, did you want to comment back, or more questions?
I think one of the ones I've forgotten that was 600,000 in loans that haven't been paid, I guess, since October 2012, and it's 600,000, and that was just for that, from August to October, 600,000 in loans that were paid out. So right now we're drafting up a JAR, and I've talked to, when Carlson was the speaker, I asked if we could do a JAR to, you know, a lot of these folks. I brought the list over. There's, if you go back, you know, the credit life of the credit at the Crow Tribe, the credit life, you know, however long it's been there. But God knows that some of those people are gone. On that list, $4 million is owed to the Crow Tribe in loans from individuals. And when I get JR, get on my way out to and introduce it, and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna make a lot of people mad, but you know, it's gonna bring us back into. I got in debt to the Crow Tribe, and the 12 million gonna go. Then you have 4 million from individuals that you have to. We're out 16 million Crow Tribe. And 4 million Gadesh is all individuals that owe the Crow Tribe. There's no way of recouping that money back from these, you know, these members. The only way I see to recoup that is through joint action to do you know, to get it back from their per capitas. That's the only way we're gonna make people honest to, you know, Crow Tribe. We got to start acting like a government. U.S. government, debt to them. If there's a debt, IRS, if you have a IRS, they'll even go into your account and get that money back, no matter what it takes, because it's a government. And we got to start acting like a government. Joint action resolution, we have no on all the people that owe credit for capital works to it, then people will start paying. I get housing with them. A lot of people are mad at us or mad at me, but at the same time, people are starting to pay their bills over there, and we're starting to become in compliance. Non-compliance getting all these years. And you know, I know per cap is precious to a lot of Crows, but at the same time, Crow tribal government were in debt because people aren't paying their bills. Individuals do, then. I could bring the list over and 4 million gonna get in the red. And some of these people owe 60,000, 50,000, 30,000, 20,000. Hey, colis gawel, we can let that 4 million belong to the next person, to the next chairman. When I leave here, I don't want Crow Tribe to be in debt. That's where I want to take Crow Tribe, and at the same time create jobs. And that's where we're at now. Revenue, we'll provide a service, jobs, and revenue. That's where I want to take this tribe, and then also to be debt free.
Oh, support this. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and executive branch. Yes. Hikiaga, transportation could daija koig hiraga 2.5 million garen yaga paperwork kare akuwahi yaga transportation could daija gun kunu bike be a kijuaha kukara eras to transportation eight bawlaj and cutbook for the roads. Cage. They said that there were some typos and BIA did. They didn't accept this or but I know that there was a joint action resolution from transportation to get this done and get that money back, or the drawdown to go stage.
Okay, I just got a letter English at BIA roads in Billings. They are in receipt of the JER, the long range plan. It's not the actual long range plan. It's actually just shitsug. It's it was kind of a rumor from some of the employees over there, but they're asking for all the projects we have. There's no professional engineer stamp, but they don't have an engineer on staff. So the interviews deal for an engineer, and one was chosen. Contract it finalized this at point system and Indian preference. Northern Engineering got the bid. Get the projects get that too stuck, certified it in with his engineering stamp. That's when BIA will accept the long range plan. And then there has to be a equipment pool. Equipment this is how many hours we worked on this, or we're gonna need this many hours on this equipment equipment pool, and then how much gravel is there, and then the project's from safety to how much material they would need. Long range plan has to be out there, and planners they've they put this together and submit and for technical assistance we submit BIA is assisting again TA and that's where we're at. And then requirements of that and projects report from roads and the whole to finalize everything and get this report submitted. And then also to submit I think we have till June 15th to submit the long range plan. And regional director and roads, we just now had a meeting with them. And technical assistance, the HO that were here to help you, it's long range plan, the JER is helping. That the one that was submitted here and passed here, it's going to help us in that long range plan. And all the requirements there's no communication between all parties involved, from the director to the planners to the guys that are working the equipment. Communication with them, and we just brought all of them together. Contracts, finance, and there was kind of an internal battle with Isaac, so we brought all of them together. difference is all, we'll work out with them, then we, told them that we need to get this done, and I think, they got the message loud and clear, and it'll be done within the week.
Thank you, floor recognizes Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Executive Chairman, members of the body. I know we're in a budget kind of country right now. Just a couple questions that we joke that I want to now higher ed college students. Okay, to quote the 107.
I get 107 is general fund. Now higher ed, get the checks that I get, the money drawdown, really, and higher ed, when it's paid out, if you have cash on hand under general fund, you can pay that higher ed until, reimburse that goes out, but general fund, reimburse it with BIA, money doesn't come until the end of the year, reimburse them, so higher ed, well, I didn't know, but they don't give you that money until that Eli Irish to that, because it's reimbursed. Well, gosh, I do BIA, and some of them are advanced at the beginning of the year. Then drawdowns there for severance tax, from tobacco tax to 107 quarterly, and 107 money that goes into general fund. In general fund, it's at a zero, because then liabilities we have to pay, and then also water resource and roads, we have to pay those. And it's going to get reimbursed, but it's taking time to get to that reimbursement. That's why we're $0 in our account. Just say that 107, well, I agree, but it goes into general fund. The revenue streams there. The general fund, the top part is all the revenue streams to the general fund.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, I'm not sure, but I think what Pat was asking was 107th committee up, because we're getting calls from them and wanting to find out when they're going to get paid, or if they did get paid today. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I got checks but you can tell there's actual money in there. Drawdowns, I don't know that they're not here yet. And I got check that counts like $30 every check that I get, so I'm trying to keep that from happening, because I get First Interstate Hardin $30 times 100 checks, for and checks they're gonna get paid, but until there's money in that account, I can't give that out checks.
Do we have an idea? What do you think that
Drawdowns, right now, OST, go Cloud Peak, when you get them, 750 get them, and those drawdowns are coming in, but they're not, it's through OST, and next day, goodbye, looks like, I get Friday, so holiday, Monday, Tuesday. So they'll get a double check probably Tuesday, they'll get it. If not, it'll be all next week, end of the week, and payday, get it next Wednesday, couldn't, that's why, even court and then you guys can go look at them. That's why we're drawdowns, they go head down, and liabilities-ish. I wanted to pay these liabilities, and it's gonna hurt us. I got probably these 2 weeks, cash crunch, it's gonna hurt us for these 2 weeks, but and liabilities-ish, I paid them so that we're not in. I took a political hit like that for us, the Crow tribe, from being non-compliance for DOJ, water, and roads.
Speaker. Floor is Duke.
Okay, I have a suggestions, Mr. Speaker and Secretary, Chairman. I get Tuesday, I get Nawali law, we have a responsibility. I get Bapo Wakari, like Babish Bajri. They deal big I lost grass, which are up, he did, watch them all. 107, you got a responsibility, watch them all. I'll get information, but I think I'm going to be taking it and sharing that with them. you page go for it. Go to some Quail guy. They got the show that show you get them as again, be being if they should shake it, I would put it on it. The me was I that cut out of the spot bit, which is not on the bike to you, I'll come back to you. Well, I've been beat bike you. I'll go tired, okay. Now, the Jew of Marjorie to say like, ask why the heroes tradition you want to reach you will you, I go tired, you walk, go away, and you go say, oh, big. Go to Gina drawdowns, could I get bothered the question? It's good to hear, Jay, remember that we've always been pushing for the separation of the accounts of the finances of the executive side for the general fund budget as well as the 638. So I think we're feeling the effects of it at the beginning, but hopefully it would get better. That there would be money, in the beginning of the every year at for the 638 startup money all the time. If it's there, then transition good, which I think is what I'm hearing, right, Mr. Chairman? Transition good. I mean, no mom may ask good. Shell put long. Again, but then general fund hit and that's where it's been starting. So it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. To go. Yeah, you get a 638. Could I cook? Five state was startup. They need a startup money every year. General fund. General fund cook up. So that's that transition. So I think I don't know if I got everybody confused. I think I got myself confused over there.
And probably another question that you're all getting about why they're getting 200. It's in the budget that we're giving them 200. It went from 40 members of the 107 prior enrichment committee. 40 members that asked in the beginning the way it was budgeted, and they got 300 because there was only 40 of them. Now we have 100 members throughout Lost Grass, Prior, and Crow. Like Black Lodge and Reno, St. Denis, go to Lost Grass and Walla are at Catholic Kogumaya. Yeah. And then Prior, they meet at the community hall. And again, the numbers, there's over 100 or 100 get a total. And we doubled the number of members and cut their pay. And again, those elders say, well, put our pay up. I said, if we do that, we have to cut half of the numbers here. So they said, well, forget about it. So that's what happened. That's why they're getting 200 instead of 300. And I know I got a letter, and the speaker got a letter also. I think it was addressed to Dookie, but they asked, to put that back to 300. But if we do that, we'll have to cut 55 of them out of that to bring it back to 300. To save it, we doubled the number and brought the cost of 200 apiece. And at 40 members, 300 that good too. And again, we're at 100 members and 200 apiece. Got it. All right.
And Speaker,
go ahead, Duke.
And the way I broke it down was, and then Bill and Speaker Oldcrow, we went to the eraser board, explaining it like, if they get $300 and they only meet for 4 hours, you break that down from a CPA and the way a bookkeeper looks at it. That's if they only meet for 4 hours at $300 once a week. For them 4 hours, it's 3 divided by 4, and that's $75 an hour. Good deal. And then now it's $200, so that's actually $50 an hour. And again, from the not Palaos. And then actually, you know, then if you go by the pay periods, that's actually about 1.3 million. So breaking it down to that $200, you're going, the total cost for about a year is 844,000. So it's a cost savings of about 400,000. You break that down or decrease that. So that's the way I explain that. The race court,
Well, you know, I had a question in regards to Pat's question earlier, the education age. Do you have a projection on when they would be receiving that money, whether books and their tuitions?
Yeah, we did explain to education department that I get drawdown Zoom no, and that's, you know, by OST. No, I'll be on sign up again. It's wire transferred, so it should be in our account. You know, if it's not over the weekend, it'll be there Tuesday. And as soon as we get those in our account, we can start cutting checks, and that's, you know, no, I'll be on wire transfer. Look, by at least by Tuesday, go to checks they go down, or money go be money in the bank. Quick change, you gotta get you know, separate accounts to do. So there's going to be times like this until we put some cushion there. But for rainy days, 1.5, I should set aside, but you know, for days like this where there's no cash flow coming in, especially from January to May, there's hardly any cash flow that comes. Majority of the money comes at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year.
Eric, is Eric.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, executive, Darren, expecting to start laying out people, projected these, it
already started, seasonals, they go started with it, and then each cabinet head budget go, and in that budget, it shows how much they're over in each department. And when they either cut the wages or they cut employees from their respective budgets. And we did this budget too for such a youth camp. That's when we made the suggestion and to make those cuts. So this coming week will be when the cuts are made.
Paul Hill.
Thank you, Chairman, Executive Chairman. There,
all that's including all the federal and throughout the whole year, just starting this fiscal year, 900 employees, 900 plus.
It's on there, you got.
And I'll do the 150 deal, because we need to let go of another 200.
Thank you, Paul. Any more questions? Darren. Just one moment. I guess Eric had another question.
Just the idea. Have you guys thought about structure, like part-time project? Have you thought about anything like that to maybe? That's my question.
Just to give you social employment. They come in and ask for home care for their folks. Take home care, and so actually we're like paying these people to watch their moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and home care. And health, Todd Wilson, state of Montana, to try to get that reimbursed through Medicaid, Medicare, third-party billing. And in order to do that, the home care provider cannot be related to the individual that they're caring for. And then at the same time, you have to have a RN, registered nurse, on staff. in order to get that reimbursement. Medical doctor aid, we're still, in Cook, we're working on a home care. There's quite a few of them. And then, security, cooks at senior citizens, social employment that's, beautification, buffalo pasture. Those are seasonal. And then Arrow Creek Ranch, I think just 4 of them are working out there, working on carpentry and electrical. Some of this is in tribal court and legislature, culture, dispatch, fish and game, parks and rec, gaming commission, forestry, fire, oil and gas, natural resource, social service, home owner service, health, IHS support, legal, direct support. Again, IHS support, 2 of our IHS support staff, police, police, 7 positions tribe, under general fund. Search and rescue, social service, 7 Hills, tribal leases, Terrell, veterans, water treatment plant, credit, revolving loan, 107th admin support. That's staff and chairman's office, all the executive branch offices, legislature, 107th education, multi-purpose, public safety, enrollment, economic development, indirect costs, admin support, tourism. I believe I get the picture. Throughout the whole program, it's going to be across the board. General fund, tribal court, legislature, executive, internally, staff budget dollars. I think the cut was for each of those departments.
Oh, there. Little boy, again, snow 442, who recognizes Mr. Realbird. This wants to talk a little bit about the credit real quick. Next time you can coordinate with Luke and come when they do, and give the report during the rest of the departments.
All right, thank you, Speaker, Secretary Roberg, legislators, executive officials. The chairman asked me today to brief you on a couple of the projects that are connected with his office. The ranch itself, the Arrow Creek Ranch, just where we're at there is they're finished with the remodel, and so we'll be moving up from there. The chairman also asked me to let you know about the indoor arena, Reno District, Reno Cowboys, the indoor arena, looking at a proposed facility, 200 by 300 feet. The proposed arena would be 125 by 250 feet. So the one tasked with working on this indoor arena, and you'll be able to work with him as well, is Jimmy Robert. And he's looking at, there's one existing arena at this time where we could actually dismantle it and bring it to the Crow tribe. And that price is about $300,000. If we do a new build, it's about $600,000. So, this still was covered and protected this whole period, and it's still useful from the structural test. So, we could actually bring that indoor arena, dismantle it, and bring it over here. And then the last project the chairman asked me to update you on is the tribal building. The USDA, it still has our application on file for a proposed administration building along with legislative chambers and judicial court chambers as well. Where we're at with that is negotiating with our current architect. Our current architect is Daniel Glenn, and he's made a proposal to us, and we're looking at all the WPA and all the different requirements to entertain a new proposal. And so at this time, that's kind of where the tribal building is at.